Well, good morning, everybody. I'm making this a new video or an insert. I still plan to do the last Mark Sargent next weekend, but I had sort of a stone in my throat. I'm getting real angry about something, and I thought I would just spread it before I got too angry. And this is I'm calling it the abduction of science. There's so much going on in this flat earth community. I see a lot of these flat earthers that think they know science and haven't a clue about what they're doing or what they're saying, what they're teaching to their community, their subs or their followers, whatever. And it's very frustrating because they're seriously hurting the field of science. Let me start out by giving you a definition of science. This is my own definition. I'm going to tell you that science is a discipline that is the study of the workings of the world and the universe. That's very simple, very straightforward. It's just the study of the way things work together. You can look at any field of science. It has its evolution in every kind of study that there is. Biology, chemistry, geology, physics, math, and I could go on and on. There are combinations of each one of those. And yet there are people that think they can just sort of wave their hand and that field of science is gone. And it's just irritating because there are hundreds, maybe thousands of years behind these studies, and you can't just do away with that because you that have never studied science, any discipline of science, somehow think you know some information that nobody else has discovered before. And that's just impossible. It just can't possibly be correct. We can start out with J.M. Truth, who somehow thought he just was the king of science, and he would make these videos, about the definition of science and how it went. Fortunately, he kind of disappeared. Good to see that he's gone. Another big one was Globebusters. They had a man on there that purported to be an engineer. They had other people on there that thought they knew science well enough to be able to refute things, and they didn't. They were shown time and time again to be wrong, to be passing information that wasn't correct. It just is frustrating. I just heard that they have moved off of YouTube, which is kind of an exciting time. Another one is Jeranism. He has teamed up with another guy that was from Globebusters, and they're now going to study the occult. So maybe they're off of passing invalid science. Lately, there's kind of a relatively new guy that is extremely frustrating. He is calls himself Professor Kyle Adams. He has a bachelor's degree in fine arts and another bachelor's degree in religion, and somehow he thinks that qualifies him to be a professor. He told me personally in Facebook messages that he felt like his qualifications didn't matter because he did collaborations with people on his discourse account, and so it was sort of a group effort, not just him trying to teach his beliefs. But the thing is, he's wrong about so many things, and it's so frustrating that he doesn't go back and correct this invalid information. I'll give you an example. He made a video saying that Australia was actually half as wide as it was long, and that is not correct. Every place you can find a measurement, I looked at driving distances, I looked at air distances, I looked at I Googled just distance. Every one of them, the width is about the same distance as the height. And I told him that, but he never responded, never thought about it, just went right on with his teachings. Another one lately that's frustrating, really gets to me, is he has decided that he can debunk the entire field of geology. He calls it earth science. I can tell you for sure, nobody since high school has called the study of the earth science. In college, it's called geology. I took a lot of geology classes, so I know it's called geology. And geosciences, there's a lot of crossing over of fields, such as geochemistry, geophysics. It affects everything. The other thing that I noticed about him, for example, he showed a photo in a book with a subtitle, and then on that subtitle he said, why don't they show any hypotheses or experiment, no scientific method, all they show is just that title. And the thing is, that's just a photo with a subtitle. It's not meant to be a description of an entire set of experiments or field of science or something. And what he said about it was completely wrong. So here, this Professor Kyle Adams that runs the Institute of Flat Earth Science just completely is wrong as many times as I've ever looked at his videos. Another one that frustrates me is Witsit Gets It. He's another one that He dropped out of college his first semester, and yet he feels like he knows enough to debate what he calls the most prominent people on YouTube. He only will debate someone that he considers a prominent channel. And when he makes a video, he's very proud of the fact that he does not use notes, that he talks off the top of his head. And, I can commend him for that. It's kind of difficult to do that. Although I do a lot of times. But he talks real fast. He says a lot of big words together. He's real big on fallacies, and that's the way he debates. When I've watched him do that, anything that you say against him, he says, "Oh, that's a fallacy. That's whatever fallacy." And it just is frustrating that a person with no training can think that he knows everything about fields of science, about things that happen in the scientific world. So another one that's big is Nathan Oakley. He's very frustrating because he supposedly debates globe earthers, and he has a debate show where people on their own thoughts get on his channel to debate him. The problem is that if you say anything, he comes back screaming bloody murder, just screaming as loud as he can scream. And whatever you say, he screams over you and says, you're avoiding my question. And why aren't you answering my question? And just pounds and pounds on somebody until all you can do is just give up. I have noticed recently that he's having trouble finding globe earth people to debate. His last couple of debates have been with flat earthers that believe differently than he does, which I find very humorous that even flat earthers have to debate each other. I feel like it's a triumph on my part that he doesn't get any globe earth debaters. So I think that's a good thing. Another one, let's see. I can tell you, tens of maybe even 100 people that they're like this. They think that they know everything, and they cannot be dissuaded from that. You can't prove to them that any of their stuff is wrong, because if I show them an experiment that's been done, they'll say either you didn't do that experiment yourself, or that's not a valid experiment. They didn't follow the scientific method. All these things that really are not the core of what goes on in the scientific community. I can guarantee you that. I've seen scientific research from just about every field you can think of. They all follow a strict set of guidelines, which you would call the scientific method. And that reminds me of another thing, is several of these guys Nathan Oakley is one. Sleeping Warrior, which is Anthony Riley. They say the same things, which are kind of weird and very frustrating. They'll say, this law of science is not valid because of the scientific method. The scientific method disproves this experiment that was done. I need to assure you, or I need to pound into you, that the scientific method is not a thing that disputes something or that disproves something. The scientific method is a set of things that you do to do an experiment. You have to understand it's like a recipe that you would use to make a cake. You do certain steps, you have certain ingredients, you mix them a certain way, you bake at a certain temperature for a certain length of time, and you get a result. You get a cake. Now, if you change any one of those, it may be fine. You can change an ingredient, and it may change the taste, but you may like it better. But let's say you change the temperature of the oven to 500 degrees and still cook it the same. You're going to get an invalid result. You're going to get a burnt crisp of a cake. And that's what the scientific method is. It gives you a set of steps that you can use to perform an experiment, a valid experiment, and then some other person in another country even can take those same steps and perform the same valid experiment and get the same exact results. If they don't get the same results, then one of the two has done something wrong. And so that gives the reviewer something to look at, that gives the original person something to look at, and it comes out with the scientific experiment finally comes out correct. And this has been done for hundreds and hundreds of years with different fields, different things. I also wanted to say that most scientific experiments are done by many different people. Different things lead to different results. So, for example, gravity. These guys like to just wave off gravity as nothing, and yet Galileo studied gravity, and there were several other people that studied gravity, and then Newton kind of finalized the theory of gravity and compacted it into a law, the law of gravity. When you wave away gravity, you're going to have to prove that each one of these persons, the things that they did were wrong. You can't just, wholesale wave off 1,000 years of strict scientific experiments and discoveries. So this was what I wanted to present to you today. I apologize for being a little frustrated because it's just irritating that these flat earth people can go about touting that they know science better than scientists. I've heard people say they're better than Einstein, and just This is just not appropriate. It's not science. You cannot prove that the earth is flat by doing invalid science or by calling everything scientific a fallacy. So give me a break here. If you want to call it science, then you got to prove that you know how to do the science that goes into that, okay? Okay, I got back on my soapbox there. So we'll see you this weekend when we talk about the number 5 question of Mark Sargent. It was good to talk to you, and we'll talk to you later.